Before diving into this video, I want to give a light spoiler warning for anyone who hasn't read Frank Herbert's sequel novel, DUNE Messiah. I'll be discussing some early revelations from the book, so consider this a heads up. Now on to the main topic. I couldn't resist talking about what feels like our first exciting yet unofficial glimpse at a key character duo in the next Dune film. The tease comes from a photo circulating on social media taken at the SNL 50th anniversary event. Anya Taylor-Joy and Jason Momoa found each other and took this selfie, and even here, the actress is winking, so definitely, if you know what she's winking about. So I saw that, I'm like, oh, that's so cool. I know that there has been speculation whether or not Jason Momoa will be recast for DUNE Messiah, but that's been mostly put to rest now after Hollywood insider Jeff Snyder reported that Momoa would in fact be returning to have a role in DUNE Messiah. But it's probably another reason why the studio and Denis Villeneuve want to just go ahead with the story of DUNE Messiah, because these actors already are well along in years. He's in his mid-40s, but yeah, if they were to delay any longer, he still needs to look like he did in Dune Part 1. So, spoilers, he's coming back as a Ghola clone, but not quite as we remember him. Will be very interesting to see his performance. It's definitely going to be more complex and nuanced. A lot of things going on in this character's head. And also in regards to the character of Hate, which is who he is, he's not Duncan Idaho as we know him. He does not have the memories of Duncan Idaho. He's simply just a clone in every other aspect. And it's called a Ghola because it's a clone made from the cells of a dead individual. So there's that difference, but also that he does not have the memories of the original. Another aspect of Gholas at this time was that they had metal eyes. I don't know if y'all remember this. This was a while ago, but Jason Momoa was doing press for, I think it was Aquaman, and he appeared on Stephen Colbert. Stephen Colbert is a fan of Dune. He knows the source material, and he was being kind of coy and dancing around whether or not he would be involved, and he worded it kind of strangely, whether we're gonna see you ever possibly in the future, but do you know? And Jason Momoa just has a very similar expression on his face here, just said, I know. And no one probably but the keenest of Dune fans would have recognized it, but Stephen Colbert leaned in really close to look at Jason Momoa's eyes specifically. Yeah, they were both kind of playing coy. And Timothée Chalamet in one interview did confirm that, oh, Jason Momoa will be back. And that was the one time he got in trouble because the interviewer hadn't read DUNE Messiah. So he's like, oh, I'm so sad that Jason Momoa's not here for this, for Dune 2 press and all of that. And he's like, oh, well, he's going to be back. Oh, have you read the book? Have you read DUNE Messiah? He's like, oh, no. Spoilers. In some ways, this is the first image of Dune 3. I love their expressions, and they definitely know what they're doing for Dune fans. And definitely on the heels of the news that we've just gotten with DUNE Messiah filming in June, you know, they are probably getting everything underway for casting negotiations. But obviously, I think stuff is very tight-lipped right now. But yeah, I think confirms that Jason Momoa will return, that there isn't going to be recasting there. And that probably is a reason why they're just going straight ahead with production. I'm sure that was a consideration for the ages of these two actors to try to be as consistent as possible with what we've already seen. So I'm very excited to see Jason Momoa's take on Hate. Duncan Idaho is one of my favorite characters, but in this story in particular, this part of his journey is engrossing and dramatic, and very excited to see that portrayed. It'll definitely be a challenge. In the novel, she's like 15, almost 16, but in reality, she does have the mind of a full-on adult Reverend Mother. She never had a childhood, so in that sense, but previous adaptations, they've always aged up the younger actors. When it came to Alia already as a toddler age, they usually casted 8 to 9-year-olds, so going from that and then into DUNE Messiah, and for Children of Dune, James McAvoy and them were older than the source material did say. And I think it worked out just fine. Even with Paul Atreides himself, he's 15 in the story of Dune, but very much a mature, wise beyond his years, 15. This isn't a normal teenager. This isn't your normal universe. It's very strange. And in particular for those like Alia who are reborn, who are just full-on adults upon their birth because they are awakened in the womb. And with Alia, she had all of the memories of her genetic history and all the memories of the previous wild Fremen Reverend Mothers. Both her and Lady Jessica at the same time became Reverend Mothers. and had their genetic memory unlocked. So it's definitely going to be a very dramatic turn of events and very interesting portrayals, and very much a challenge for both of these actors, Anya Taylor-Joy to convey, and Jason Momoa as well, who will in a sense be playing a different character, different take on it. But initially, Hate is programmed as a Mentat Zen Sunni philosopher, so very different, but Duncan Idaho in all other respects. I don't want to give too much away. I won't be that spoilery, but I'm giving you the outline of what the initial pages of DUNE Messiah do. And that was another reason why people were concerned. Can Jason Momoa pull that off? He pulls off the Swordmaster. Great. He is the best Duncan Idaho out of all the previous adaptations. I was very pleased that in this particular adaptation, we finally had justice for Duncan, because he's always been pushed to the side. At least in that first story, the Dune adaptation, he's seen as a side character that can easily be replaced or have his actions be replaced by other characters. And it's a shame because he has such a significant impact on the story itself, because he is the first person that the Fremen encounter of House Atreides. He was their representative. Duke Leto trusted him enough with that incredibly important mission. And the fact that the Fremen themselves had a good relationship with Duncan, an outsider. They respected him because of his strength as a warrior and his willingness to learn their ways, to learn more about them. They were very much impressed, and he was invited to be part of their tribe because of that. So definitely had a huge impact on how House Atreides moved forward in trying to establish the relationship with the Fremen. And that was what the whole story kind of was built from. When the story of Dune starts, they know that they're in this trap. They need allies. So it was very important what Duncan was doing in establishing those initial connections to the Fremen. Also to the other characters around him, his relationship with Paul. The source material did say how these were his friends, his mentors were his friends. He didn't have any normal upbringing. Gurney, Thufir, and Duncan, they were his friends, his teachers, and in particular, Duncan. So I'm glad that they put that additional scene in Dune Part 1 where they established their friendship, because I think that's so important to the character of Paul, to see that influence of his mentors. I wish they'd had more of Thufir in there, but I'm so happy, especially now moving forward with DUNE Messiah. I'm glad that they established that close relationship in Dune Part 1. In that respect, I'm very excited for what's to come, because I thought that they handled Duncan and Paul's connection, and Duncan himself, his story, very well. So fingers crossed. The gap between Dune and Messiah does need to be widened a little bit just to make Alia old enough. Taylor-Joy can play a younger character, not sure about 16, but in movie, she can't be 14. The timeline has already been fiddled with, so I wouldn't put it past them to adjust it. I don't even know if they're going to say what year we're in. How they've treated time already, they've had some creative liberties there. And we've had several years in the passage of time for the Book of Dune condensed into just a few months. So I don't think Alia is going to be 12 years old. I don't even know if they're going to say, 16 years later, our story continues. It'll just be clear, I think, that there's a long passage of time. You could also explain it because of her preborn nature, being this full-fledged Reverend Mother from the womb, that as a result of that, she had advanced or accelerated growth. And it's not entirely without basis in the source material, because the Bene Gesserit have the power to control their appearance and to control somewhat of their aging. They don't have to look as aged as they do, but clearly that would put them in a light of suspicion. They have control over every nerve, muscle fiber, cell, organ. They have the ability to control their aging, but they don't, because it would bring about the eye of suspicion and be looked upon as a threat. If they have such powerful abilities, it would just undercut their entire agenda. So they don't want to be seen as a threat. They don't want to reveal the full extent of their powers, because they want to be in the shadows. They need to operate behind the scenes and manipulate those that they are claiming to serve, and all for the outworking of their agenda to control human destiny. So it's not entirely without precedent for powerful Bene Gesserit to control their aging, even if it's the opposite, like make yourself have this accelerated growth. So I think it's explainable and believable in that way. And previous adaptations too, they've used actors that are older than they are described to being in the actual source material. And I think it's worked out fine because these characters are unusual in their characteristics. And as far as Alia goes, she never was a child in form, but she is a full-fledged adult, all the knowledge of all of the adults before her. Very unusual upbringing. And yeah, it makes sense. But also that they want to keep this going. And the use of de-aging technology is kind of iffy even still, so it makes sense for them to capitalize on this for the older actors to start on DUNE Messiah as soon as possible. Both Alia Atreides and the character of Hate, those are the elements I'm most excited for, and the relationship between Hate and Paul Atreides. I'm pleased with Anya Taylor-Joy's casting. I was looking at her several years ago. She was my fan casting for Princess Irulan, so this was kind of a nice surprise too. Definitely think she can play a wonderfully complex Alia Atreides, so very excited to see their portrayal and their storyline specifically. I've been pleased with the handling so far of Duncan Idaho's character, so that's kind of the reason for hope that I have moving forward. And it's definitely a significant part of the story for Duncan's relationship with Paul and Alia Atreides. It's going to be very interesting to see. But if you can't wait, there is a Sci-Fi Channel miniseries adaptation of DUNE Messiah and Children of Dune. But I'm curious to know what you think about this unofficial tease of these two central characters in the upcoming DUNE Messiah adaptation. Are you concerned or optimistic about Momoa taking on a more complex role in this new film? How do you think they'll handle Anya Taylor-Joy's older appearance in the movie? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave a like if you did, and be sure to subscribe for more Dune and other sci-fi and fantasy news, theories, and lore. And if you're looking for other ways to show your appreciation, you can check out my Patreon page, where members get access to exclusive content and perks. Thank you all so much for your support, and as always, have a very nerdy day.